What's up, guys? We did it. We won our Worlds ticket over the last weekend, going 4-1 with Mortarion's Hammer. Not super proud of playing Mortarion's Hammer, but Grey Knights weren't legal yet, and Orcs kind of get dumpstered by the meta in a singles environment, so I really wanted to go to Worlds, and I think it'll be better in the long run for me to talk about Grey Knights lists, talking about going to Worlds, Orc lists for Worlds. So here we are. We played Mortarion's Hammer at an event. I essentially first timed it at this GT. So, but the difference between me knowing the army round 1 versus round 5 was drastically different. Some embarrassing things I actually didn't know. Keep in mind, everything I was doing like incorrectly, it was actually a hindrance to me. I did not do anything wrong to benefit myself, essentially, right? So the event was a 5-round GT, Hudson, Florida, about 42 players. Fantastic event. Shout out to Lewis and Tim for running that event. The best terrain I've ever played on at a tournament. It includes everywhere I played. It's the best terrain I've ever played at. So if you guys are ever considering like traveling to Florida for a GT or something, Onslaught Games is the one you want to go to, or like ATC type stuff. So let's get right into it after that little speech there. So I played Mortarion's Hammer. I take no credit for the list at all. I 1-for-1 copied Steve Trimble, who gave me one coaching game with this list prior to the event, and he won the event with it, and he played the exact same thing. For those of you who haven't really seen it, I'll just break it down very quickly for you, talk about what it's trying to do, and then I'll be going over the matchups. So you play three characters. You play a Lord of Virulence and 2 Lords of Contagion. The Lord of Virulence gets a very cool enhancement in Mortarion's Hammer, where he gets Lone Op when he's within 3 inches of a vehicle. And if there's a vehicle within 3 inches of him that shoots something that he can see, you get to reroll 1s to wound. On top of that, his ability gets to point at something that he can see, and all of your vehicles with blast get full rerolls to hit. And then you reroll 1s with your non-blast stuff, so it makes your weapons very efficient at the stuff that he gets to point at. The 2 Lords of Contagion, arguably the best model in Warhammer 40k. 110-point model that gives you lethal or lance and sustained hits on your very broken Death Shroud Terminators. On top of that, they all have lethal. So on the charge, whatever, they're going to be lethal sustained lance, essentially AP 3 in most matchups with the Contagion aura, and they kill most of Warhammer 40k very consistently. So that unit was definitely very powerful. And then I played 3 Death Shroud Terminators, 3 Photed Bloat Drones with the Heavy Blight Launcher, the 10-2-3 gun with blast. Then I put 2 Malefic Blight Haulers. They just are very annoying. They're kind of my little guys that run out and do stuff early. 3x10 Poxwalkers, way better than Italian Man. From what Steve told me, I haven't actually played with Italian Man before, but you don't really need CP in this attachment, so I think it's a very good swap to do the 3rd Poxwalker unit. They're incredibly annoying and allow you to play the game without giving up a vehicle for like 1 to 2 turns. And then the most annoying thing in the game, probably currently the best indirect in the game, is 3 Plague Burst Crawlers with entropy cannons each. They just get a 48-inch 8-1-2 indirect. And then in Mortarion's Hammer, when you pick the -1 to the save characteristic, you get to be shooting across the map at effectively AP2 with their very cool guns that do splash mortals as well. So overall, the list, what it does is it doesn't play primary incredibly well. You essentially force your opponent onto primary via the Poxwalkers and Mephitic Blight Haulers. They come out and have to contest primary. You blow them up with the Heavy Bloat Drones, and then the Plague Burst Crawlers go after squishy stuff behind walls or blow up screens. And then when it's time, your Death Shroud get to drop within 6 inches of whatever you want to destroy, and they one-tap most of the game on average. And you just kind of clean the game up from there. So overall, it was a pretty fun list to pilot. Like I said, the difference between me knowing the list round 1 and round 5 was drastically different. So yeah, that's the list. That's pretty much the strategy. It's a very straightforward list. I think that if you have a good understanding of like Warhammer fundamentals, you could take this list right now, go win RTTs, and definitely go 4-1 or 5-0 at a GT, assuming you just have good fundamentals and have good target priority. So I'm going to break down my matchups in the next part here, and then we're going to talk about my plans for Worlds really quick. Okay, so 5-round event. I had 5 amazing rounds of Warhammer. If any of my opponents that I played at the event are watching this, shout out to you. You guys are all fantastic, so thank you. I hope that you guys had an enjoyable time playing against me. I know Mortarion's hammer can be a little cringe to play against, but it felt like all of our games were very fun. As you guys can see by the scores here, only really one of them was a really huge win, so a lot of these games came down to sort of the last couple turns, which sort of translates to a pretty fun game, Warhammer 40k. So round one was against Imperial Guard. Awesome Imperial Guard player who played triple Rogal Dorns. I got a little bit nervous in this game, and I'm not going to lie, guys, I did get bailed out by a Challenger card. There was a point where I sort of had a Death Shroud unit with a character a little bit stranded on his expansion, and he had something on the middle I really wanted to go after, and I had really no way of getting there, and then I was down by 6, and I ripped a Challenger card that happened to give me advance in charge, and then, of course, after that happened, you always roll the 6, so I rolled a 6 on my advance in charge. So I got to go 11, and then it became like a 4 or 5 inch charge to the middle point, which also happened to give me area denial and bring it down. So that was a very, very lucky sequence on my part. Do I think that was the difference in winning and losing the game? I'm not sure, but it certainly effectively ended the game right there on turn 4 by me being able to do that. Fantastic opponent. I don't feel like this list kills Dorns very well. Steve Trimble may tell you otherwise, but I had a hard time blowing up the Dorns. But it was a really good back and forth game, and I was able to pull it out going first against Triple Dorn. Round 2, I played against very, very good Thousand Suns player, and I had bottom turn, and I was able to squeak out the win with a big bottom 5. I got my Lord of Virulence killed in turn 1 with a very aggressive Umberlific Crystal play on his part, which I did not expect him to do. Could I have avoided it? For sure, but I did not ever think that play would have happened. So I lost my reroll hits lone up guy in my deployment zone on my home point, essentially on turn 1. I deployed him on the terrain feature, kind of like a dummy. So he got kind of blown up down like that little side lane there by the Umberlific Sorcerer unit. Ultimately, didn't really impact my damage too much. I kind of still did blow up everything I shot at, but ended up being a very close game, and the Death Shroud Terminator / Plagueburst Crawlers definitely carried that one. I won by 2. But bottom turn, I think if I went first, I probably would have lost here, but overall, it was a good game. Then round 3, played against one of my very good Eldar friends. He was playing Warhorse, I believe, which like the Fire and Fade, get back in the Wave Serpent with a bunch of Fire Dragons, Jane Czar, Lycus. Turn 1, he made some very aggressive plays because he went second, so I knew that I had to be on the gas. But unfortunately, Eldar kind of get blown up by Plagueburst Crawlers incredibly poorly because I'm hitting on 4s with lethals, and then I'm wounding on 2s. And then the Splash Mortals just destroy Aspect Warriors, unfortunately. So any Warp Spiders or like things that were staged behind walls just got cooked over the course of the game by the Plagueburst Crawlers. And then the Death Shroud kind of cleaned the game up turn 4/5. Because they were just kind of hard to kill. We didn't have enough stuff left. And then round 4, I went second, I think, and I went first against Dark Angels, where I was able to push up with my Poxwalkers pretty aggressively and shoot my Plagueburst Crawlers and blow up like scouts and then assault intercessors. And then he kind of essentially made his go turn on turn 2, where he advanced in charge, or just turn 1 almost, because he advanced in charge of Deathwing Knight onto my expansion, and then he turn 1 deep strikes his other Deathwing Knight on his expansion, and unfortunately did miss a 9-inch charge. So what this allowed me to do was, since he had both of his Deathwing Knights essentially as his front line, going first, I got to hit Mortarion's hammer, mark them, or just put him in contagion range, and then drop my 2 Galore of Contagion Death Shroud units and bang 2 6-inch charges and essentially kill both of those units. So unfortunately, he only had 1 CP at that juncture of the game, so he wasn't able to interrupt. So once I saw he had no CP to interrupt, I was like, okay, it's time for the Death Shroud have to go catch these Deathwing Knights right now. So basically, at the end of turn 2, he had 0 Deathwing Knights left, and he was essentially trying to play the game with the Lion and the 10-man Stern Guard Brick with Azrael, who started in Strat. So I think that's just kind of a really rough matchup for the Dark Angel player, because I have enough stuff to play the game without really without having to use my Death Shroud, but he effectively destroys my stuff the best with the Deathwing Knights. So whenever those guys become the front line, the Death Shroud just get to counter them and go kill them, which is essentially exactly what happened in this game. And then round 5, I had a very unfortunate loss against a great opponent playing Custodes. He's playing 2 bike units with 2 bike captains and Canis Rex. Very, very cool and very good Custode Lions list, in my opinion. I think he played it very, very well. So congrats to him for winning the event. However, there was a turn, like turn 4/5. He had 1 Allurus Terminator standing on his expansion that he split. And 6 activations of my Plague Burst Crawlers did not kill it. And he made literally every single save, actually. And I got no Splash Mortals from any of my Plague Burst Crawlers, which ended up being exactly the amount of points he needed to win the game on the swing, because I had no way to get models there, and he was able to win through that. I could have played this matchup probably a lot better. Again, keep in mind, this is essentially my 5th game ever with Mortarion's Hammer in the finals of a GT against a very, very good player. So I definitely could have played it better. I think if I look back at it, I think there was a turn where he had Canis Rex in the middle, a bike squad literally in my deployment zone, and then another bike squad in front of my ruin on layout 1. And I have 2 Death Shroud, and he has an interrupt. So I basically only get to kill 2 things here, right? Because I get to shoot 1 to death, and then my Death Shroud unit gets to essentially destroy the other one. So I had to choose between essentially shooting and killing 1 bike unit, which was always the first choice, and then the Deathwing Knights had to choose either Canis Rex or the bike unit. Hindsight, I should have chose Canis Rex because I think the Death Shroud unit absolutely shreds him. But I chose the bike unit, and Canis Rex ultimately ended up carrying this game because I lost most of my resources to deal with him. And then honestly, I think my biggest misplay of this game was how I utilized my 3-man Death Shroud with no character. So there was a point in the game very early, turn 2, where he left his home point essentially open, to where I was able to rapid ingress my 3-man Death Shroud back there and clear off the sisters to take the point. But in hindsight, thinking about the game after the fact, I just did not have to do that. And then I could have used that 3-man as another resource to chip down Terminators. Because essentially what I did was he left his home point open, and instead of just going, oh, he has no way to sticky this point, let me just triple Plague Burst Crawler and get rid of the sisters there. My thought was, oh, I can have my Death Shroud go take it and stand on the point the whole game. And while they did score me 4 points extra every turn on his home, that actually did not really matter because I was getting fought in the middle of the table the whole game, where he was holding 2 objectives anyway between Terminators and Canis Rex. I think that if I had just marked them with the Mortarion's Hammer token so they're at contagion range, triple Plague Burst Crawler them, wipe him off the home, and now he has literally nothing to stand there. I can then go play the game with the 3-man Death Shroud. Now he did still have the pickup with the Allurus Terminator, so we could have split the unit into 4s and then stood 1 guy in his home with their pickup. That probably would have been his play there, so maybe that isn't a misplay in the long run, because he did have a good counter to it. But overall, I don't want to blame Dice for that game. Did I lose because he rolled all those saves? Specifically, sure, you could say that, but when I look back at the game, I think I could have done a lot of things differently and allowed me to win. So I don't want to just complain about the dice. And then just rule of thumb for everybody, try not to complain about the dice. I know sometimes your opponent goes 10 for 10 on 4-ups or whatever, but almost always when you look back at a game, you can see something you could have done differently or could have done better to win. So yeah, that's really it. That's the event. Again, it was fantastic. All my opponents were great. I'm sad I didn't win the GT, but I did get 3rd, so it is a podium, nice podium placement where I got some sort of credit and a fun trophy. And I'll be going to Worlds, and I'm going to be playing Grey Knights or Orcs. Depending on what the data slate looks like, that'll make my decision. But I'll tell you right now, it's heavily leaning Grey Knights. So we're gonna be in the lab. We're gonna be working on some very cool Grey Knight lists, and we are gonna go try and do very well at the World Tournament with my Silver boys. So thank you guys for watching. I will be posting some more content here coming up about Grey Knights, and then I have a few other just general tips and tricks videos that I think everybody can apply to their games to be better. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video, and I'll see you guys at Worlds.